Welcome to Bedtime Stories with Brandon Copeland. And I'm Brandon Copeland, and I've got Lewis here.
Hi.
And hi to all my friends and family out there.
I'm Foxy.
And tonight, our story, Lewis,
It's going to be about a fox.
is about a foxy. Now, for those of you who don't know what a foxy is, Lewis, when he was a little baby, had a blanket, and he loved his blanket. But pretty soon it got destroyed or thrown up on, or it was in the wash. And so instead of giving him a blanket, we gave Lewis a little rabbit skin, a rabbit fur. And he would hold it in his hand, and he would rub it on his nose, and he would rub his face on it when he was a baby. And he just loved the soft, soft fur of this rabbit. But as Lewis grew up and got older, he, the rabbit fur, the foxy, we called it a foxy, I don't know why, but we called it a foxy, got lost and got dirty and got kind of destroyed. And eventually, he didn't have them. He grew out of it. And like most things, we grow out of them.
We found them again. Mom found them. Found all of them.
Mom, and then one day when he was grown up, and he was a grown-up man and almost a daddy ready to be in his own house, they found a box of old keepsakes, Louis John's keepsakes. And inside there was a bunch of foxies.
Yeah.
These little soft furs that were all from his childhood.
Yay.
And when Louis rubbed it on his face, something amazing happened. Suddenly, Lewis reverted back to being a baby, and he immediately pooped his pants and started crying and wanted some milk, a bottle of milk. And he was a grown man with a suit and tie on, and he combed hair and glasses and a job, and everybody saw him acting like a baby, and they were like, "What the heck is going on?" And it didn't last that long. I mean, he was maybe 10 minutes like that and then snapped out of it. And he was like, "Whoa, that was weird. What happened?" And the mommy and daddy came and they said, "There's something odd or magical about this foxy. When we rub it on your face, you start acting like a baby." He's like, "What? That's crazy. Let me see that thing." And he rubbed it against his nose. And all of a sudden, wee, wee, wee. And he laid on the ground and started sucking his thumb. And everyone was like, "What?" And then he snapped out of it 5 minutes later, and he was like, "Whoa, what happened?" And the dad was like, "You were sucking your thumb and crying like a baby." And he was like, "Oh my gosh, it's real. I wonder if this foxy works on everybody."
No, it's
Or if it just works on me. So they walked up to the dad, and he said, "Okay, Dad, let's try it on you." And he rubbed the foxy on his dad's nose. And the dad all of a sudden goes, and then he sat down on the ground and just started crying like a baby. And everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, that foxy turns people into babies."
No, it's because it makes you cry like a baby, and it's part of a rat. So it makes you cry like a rat and a baby.
A rat baby, huh? Well, Lewis had an idea. You see, he wanted to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he went to the bank. And when he got to the front of the line at the bank, he took out his foxy and he held it in front of the woman at the counter, and he looked and he goes, "Can you tell me if there's anything wrong with this?" And she looked at it and he goes, "Look at it really closely." And she put it a little closer to her face. And he's like, "No, look really close. Maybe you can see really close to your nose and your eyes." And so she put it right up close to her nose and her eyes, and then rubbed it on her nose and her eyes. Louis did. He reached forward and rubbed it. And she kind of pulled away and looked at him. And then she looked and went, "Wee," and sat down on the floor and started crying like a baby. And Lewis was like, "Oh my gosh, it really worked." And then he leaned over and he goes, "Hey, give me all the money in the till." little baby. And the baby was like, "Nyeh," and handed the money to him. And he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she gave me that money. And he ran out of the bank. And when the woman snapped out of it 5 minutes later, she was like, what's going on? And the other people in the bank were like, you were crying like a baby and you gave that man way too much money. Why'd you do that? And she's like, I don't know. Do you like rub my nose with this fur? And it made me cry like a baby and I couldn't make any good decisions. Oh my gosh. So now Lewis had some money. He decided, what am I going to buy? I'm going to go buy a cool car. A really cool car. So he went to the car dealership. And where they had really cool cars. And he walked inside and he saw the coolest red car and he goes, that's a cool car. I'd like to give that a try. And the man said, oh, we can't let you drive that. That is a Ferrari and those are very expensive. And you need to have, a deposit with $100,000 in it before we let you drive that car. And then guess what Lewis did? He pulled out his foxy and he rubbed it on the guy's face. Just flagrantly rubbed it on his nose. And the guy was like, what the heck? What's wrong with you, sir? And then he goes, and starts crying. And Lewis goes, can I have the keys to that red car over there? And the man handed him the keys. And he took the keys and he drove the Ferrari right out of the showroom. Started spinning out and driving around. And the man woke up and everyone in the room ran out and they were like, why'd you give him the keys? Who is that guy? And the man who was selling the cars was like, I don't know. He rubbed me in the face with this fur thing and it made me act all weird.
And he has lots of the fur.
Problem is, none of these things that Lewis was doing were very nice. And all those people, the bank and the car shop, they felt like they got swindled. And so guess what they did? They called the police. And the police they said, there's a man, he is driving in a red Ferrari. He's got a handful of cash. And he is stealing things from people and tricking them. And the police started chasing after the Ferrari. Pretty soon he had a bunch of police. On every street corner they would hop in their car and follow him. Until finally he had to drive away from the city out into the desert.
So fast he crashed so much cars. He's just because of Ferrari.
He was
so
no,
fast.
It's true. You're right. He was driving very recklessly and he had to get out of the city. So he drove really fast out into the desert alone. And all the policemen followed him. Until finally he just pulled over on the side of the road and he got out of the car and he held up the foxy.
And he rubbed it on the police's face.
And they all had their guns pulled on him. And they were all pointing at him and they said, get down on the ground. Don't pull anything crazy. And then he grabbed the foxy and he rubbed it on his own nose. And when he did that, he sat on the ground and he started crying. Wee, wee, wee. And all the policemen were like, is he crying like a baby? What the heck?
And then that police, he's like, Lewis, he's like, can I have the gun? And the police gave Lewis the gun.
Well, no, he didn't do it to the police. He just did it to himself. The police were like, well, we can't shoot a person who's acting like a baby. He's like crazy or something. So they put their guns away. And then they walked up to him and put him in handcuffs and brought him to jail because he was tricking people. And that's why you don't trick people with your secret foxy, magical foxy that makes you act like a baby. Because you'll end up in jail. The end.